Andrew Terry Pasieka here with Celina Caesar Chavannes. And is that correct? Or how
that is a correct pronunciation, yes.
And we're here as a part of SMJ Live, talking about an interesting life story, but not the life story that we've heard up to now from this lady. We want to explore a couple of areas that maybe other people haven't. And we're going to focus on 4 particular days that have happened in your life, 3 directly and 1 indirectly.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
The first day.
Yes.
Washington, D.C.
Yes.
Not too many weeks ago. First state visit and state dinner for a Canadian Prime Minister in 19 years. That was a pretty special weekend.
It was. We were there for 3 days. It was awesome.
Now, what I'm wondering is, what thoughts and emotions were going through your mind, not just in the state dinner, but, arriving, the plane, like, I'm here. When you think about your journey, where you've come from, where your parents came from, what you've been through, and what you represent, just besides the constituents you represent, how high the bar has been set, and now the bar is Washington, D.C. state dinner.
Yeah.
Tell me what that felt like to you through those whole 3 days.
It started off with getting on the plane with the Prime Minister. So I flew down with the Prime Minister. Some flew on their own. And for me, that was extraordinary. It's not something that somebody does every day where they could just, skip or bypass U.S. customs and get onto the plane with the Prime Minister. That for me was, I wanted to soak it all in. I didn't ever want it to be there to be a moment where I thought, oh, this is going to get old one day.
It was sort of like somebody hit the fast forward button and you said, no, I want to hit play.
Slow it down, the slow down button so that I could just take it all in.
Yeah.
And I remember calling my husband Vidal and saying, oh my God, like I can't believe this is happening. And I was all giddy and he says, don't act like a tourist. And I said, no, but I'm going to take a lot of pictures. Every time I think, okay, don't act like a tourist, I was like, no. And I'd be clicking, so I'd be on the tarmac and clicking. And then even when we landed in Washington, we saw Air Force One, which is a huge plane. And we're looking around going, is that Air Force One? Is that Air Force One? And so we're taking pictures of it, and it was just a giddy experience.
So that's the first emotion, giddy, and you're trying to balance between
professionalism,
I am parliamentary secretary of a Canadian Prime Minister versus, oh my God.
Yes. So I'm trying to balance that giddiness with and enthusiasm and naivety with pull yourself together, like act like you've been here before.
Okay.
Right? And I think I failed at the latter, which is good. Because it was good for me to not act like I've been here before, because I haven't been there before, and I was completely over the moon. So I didn't attend the state dinner. I attended the state lunch. So
state lunch.
So the next day they had the welcome reception, then the event with Mrs. Obama and Sophie Gregoire Trudeau, and then the state lunch was.
And you were at that event?
I went to all 3.
Okay.
Yes.
So what was that like in terms of experiencing it? And...
So at first, the first was the welcome with the president. Just knowing that he was coming around the corner, and you have to realize that I've waited 8 years to say hello, Mr. President, and up until that day, I'd never been able to do it without bursting into tears, because President Obama means so much to me. Growing up, we were told, you could be anything that you want to be, but there was never a personification of that hope, that myth.
And that's about as high as a bar it can be.
Yeah.
You can't be anything you want to be, you can get that high.
Right. And so seeing him after all my life growing up going, I've never seen anyone who looks like me who's the president. I've never seen anyone and then to see him and to be able to say, hello, Mr. President. I'm not even sure if I remembered my name at that moment. Our Prime Minister, Justin, graciously put his hand behind me and, at the small of my back and said, President Obama, this is Celina Caesar Chavannes. I was like, oh, yeah, that's who I am. And she's the member from Whitby, my parliamentary secretary. And then we exchanged a little joke, and it was funny, but the media picked that up as one of the most genuine, spontaneous moments between a head of state, President Obama, and someone that they'd ever seen. So it was a really special moment, and the picture with the president and the prime minister on either side of me one of the most powerful moments of my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess you are part of something that people are still giddy about, I think, throughout the world. Like, there's a real bromance going on between President Obama and your boss.
And I think that really...
And it seems so natural,
yeah,
too.
And that's it right there. You hit the nail on the head. It was really natural. So the time that we spent in Washington, it didn't matter if I was talking to Mrs. Obama's chief of staff or someone from the State Department or someone on the street. Everyone was genuinely happy to have us there. It wasn't the let's roll the red carpet and put on a show. It was a genuine warmness and warmth that we felt.
And it's almost like President Obama may have sensed that there might be something special, because it's been 19 years since Canadians were honored in that way.
Yeah.
And
well, we've been. I think Justin Trudeau has been very clear in the tone that he wants to set with this government.
Yeah.
Whether you're talking about gender parity or diversity, or talking about having a more inclusive society, and I believe that is akin to some of the values that the president and
very
has.
much so. Very much so.
Yeah.
Okay, let's yank you back.
Yes.
Yank you back to a second day. This is a day where you received a paycheck.
Yeah.
A fairly substantial one. And
Danielle.
I don't know if you have to share with me the intimate details of how you and Vidal celebrated that. But it was the down payment for your home.
Oh my God, yeah.
How long did you wait for that first check?
Oh my God. So the company was incorporated in November
of what year?
2015. And we actually got the down payment in May. But the company, you don't start a company and immediately incorporate it. I didn't think about that. So we had started the company a lot earlier, probably towards the end of 2014. We had started the process of getting the company rolling. So we're talking about a year and a bit, just waiting for this.
I can relate a lot to Vidal because of what I'm doing with Shelley in terms of support. He took a second job and just allowed you to work.
And a third job.
And a third, never told. Well, so what was the third job?
So he was a teacher.
Yep.
And he taught night school, and he worked at the paint department at Home Depot.
In between, he squeezed in shifts wherever he could.
Yeah.
You came to Canada from Grenada at age 2. Your father raised you, taught you to be independent.
Yeah.
How did that resonate with you when your husband allowed you to be independent and you two had faith in each other that you are going to make this work?
You know, I remember that day so well when, he just says, no, babe, you stay in focus. I have faith that this is going to work. Because I had my MBA. I had my bachelor's degree. I had worked in pharmacy a long time, so I thought, well, this is easy. I could go get a job. And to hear him say, I have faith, especially when I knew I didn't really have a lot, hence the reason why I'm dusting off my resume and getting it ready. So I'm starting to lose a little bit of faith, and he's kind of filling my cup back, filling the reserves. And when you know that you have someone who has your back, it allows you to spread your wings and fly a little bit, even though you don't know what the outcome of that is going to be.
Yeah.
You might crash and burn, you might fail, you might disappoint, or you might succeed. You don't know.
Right.
But to have someone say, look, I will take 3 jobs. I will have faith in you. You just open up your wings, it's okay, and fly, and see what happens.
So, when you got the check, how did it feel?
That was euphoric. It's a funny story though, because the money came in, so we had to close on Thursday, and up until the Friday before, there was no money. So I'm thinking, oh my God, like what are we gonna do? So we had to call his parents. We asked his parents to borrow the money, wire us the money, and then the check comes in on the Monday. So we're like, okay, now we have 2 down payments, but no, there's more. We can't have smooth sailing. Then the bank says, well, it's your first big check. You've opened this account over a year ago. You've had no money. We're not going to clear the check. And it's a U.S. check.
You have to wait.
So we have to wait, and it's a significant check. It's a 6-figure check. So because my job is I have to pay my clients, and part of that check I keep. So they say, no, we're not going to clear it for 2 weeks or 14 days or 30 days, whatever. And I'm thinking, no, that can't happen. I need to close on Thursday. And I'm not telling them that, but in my head I'm going, why can't this just be simple? And so I beg and I plead, and I say, can you at least release the amount for the down payment? And they said, sure. I was just like, sure? Like, what? And so we had actually double the amount of our down payment on that Thursday, but we had to give his parents back the money. But it was just so, you just kind of look up and go, really? All that, and we have double the down payment now, but it was...
You got double for your trouble.
Exactly, right?
You've heard that saying before.
Yeah.
If you have belief and faith, and it sounds like you do,
Yes.
you got double for your trouble.
So it was, that day was just, yay! It was like meeting Obama.
It was. The third day,
Mm-hmm.
you didn't have any political background. In fact, you've given interviews saying that you learned a lot of stuff from your 16-year-old daughter, Desiree.
Yes, a lot.
We can talk about that in another interview.
Yeah.
She may be politically motivated in ways you aren't.
Yeah.
But you joined the Liberal Party in February of 2014.
Yes.
And there must have been something serendipitous about that, because what happened 1 month later? You got this email.
Yeah.
A day you got this email, yeah. You're from Grenada.
Yes.
Do you know, of course, of a place called Happy Hill?
Yes.
How close is that to where you were raised? Where was the view from?
Everything's closer.
Yeah, where was the view from? Let's get your town, your village.
I'm from Palm Road, St. David's.
And is that like just a few minutes away?
Yeah, everything is.
Okay.
I mean, I think you could do the whole island.
Yeah,
in a
you know
couple
where I'm
hours.
going. Where?
Yeah.
In 1960, a young lady by the name of Jean Augustine arrived in Canada.
Yes.
And as it turns out, she started out as a nanny, became a teacher and principal. What were your parents?
Teachers, yes.
Teachers. And you're highly educated,
Yes.
the educated background. Her first job after she became an MP was parliamentary secretary.
Yep.
That's not lost on you either, is
No.
it? Okay. When you realize, answering that email, and now you're where you are, parliamentary secretary,
Yes.
a woman from Grenada,
Yeah.
and following in the footsteps of the first Canadian female black MP
Yep.
and member of parliament and cabinet member.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel? Is that the word serendipitous, coincidence? What is that?
I've actually said there must be something in the water in Grenada. that the odds of having two female parliamentary secretaries in a generation, it's weird. But serendipity, yeah, you know what? It's a lot of hard work, and it's the value that is placed on education, on perseverance, on hard work, on not settling,
Right.
on always trying to do your best. And I think it as well is a testimony to authenticity. Because
Okay.
the reason why Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister, chose me as his parliamentary secretary is because we had built a relationship over the course of the elections. So
Important, very
it's
important.
very important.
Yeah.
And for me, you know, I'm always second guessing myself, you know, in my quiet corners. People probably won't believe it, but oh, you laugh too loud. Oh, you get excited at, going to Washington. You're taking selfies. You're doing this. You're doing that. And you should act a little more like you've been here. You should be a little bit more refined. You should do this, Celina. And then at the next moment, I just fall back into being myself. And that is the brilliance of authenticity, is that you're constantly just reverting back to who you naturally are.
But you know what? Isn't the giddy part of you? Maybe that's what sold Justin as well, because that's part of you.
Yeah.
That's what he wanted. He wanted a well-rounded person who was all those things that
Yes.
represented the people of Canada as his parliamentary secretary.
I
Did you ever
think
think
so.
about that?
I think so. Yeah, I definitely did. I think Justin in his choice. I mean, he has a lot of people to choose from.
Right.
But that sort of that spirit of willingness and openness and joy and just everything. And I'm not afraid to say it to him either. I sat beside him about a month or two ago, and I said, Jay, I'm your ride or die. He's like, what? I said, I got your back. And we had a good laugh about it. But I'm just me all the time. And I think he appreciates that.
That's probably one of the main reasons he picked you.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. We're going to move on to now to the fourth day. And this is one you weren't present at. But it's got some significance.
Okay. I feel like it's a surprise.
Yeah, it's a surprise. It's a surprise. But it's a nice surprise.
Okay.
Because it ties in everything. It ties in your education. It ties in what you want to do as a woman, as an MP, as probably a future cabinet minister.
Yes.
Also ties in everything that you are as a woman and as an entrepreneur. About the time that you were preparing to go to Washington, we had a very interesting thing happen to us. Shelley's involved in a conference called Spiritpreneur, and she has an arrangement with a very, very good charitable organization called Interim Place.
Right.
I don't know if you've heard of them, but they've been around in this area of the GTA for about 35 years now, and they've helped over 40,000 women and children flee from violent, abusive homes and find a safe haven.
Amazing.
So every year, Shelley provides tickets to her conference, Spiritpreneur, for 5 women.
Oh, nice.
Just free of charge to come in, so that it's not a question that they just get a break from being at the safe haven home. They get a chance to see women who are flourishing or just starting to bloom, maybe.
Yeah.
And like you said earlier in the conversation, there's hope for me.
Yeah.
How high can the bar be? Well, there's no limit.
Yeah.
Let's see where it can go. We had the very pleasant opportunity to attend their 4th annual gala, Rays of Hope. The keynote speaker was your boss's mother,
Oh, wow.
Margaret Trudeau,
Yes.
who we got an exclusive interview for in the same issue as you. So this is serendipitous as well.
That's amazing.
from our point of view. But as you know, she is a major advocate for mental health.
Yes.
Guess what one of your 2 strategies are? You want to develop a national brain strategy.
Yes.
Now,
Definitely.
your company, I thought it was a very interesting name. You should find out about that. You call Resolve Solutions. Was there a interesting tie-in for that? Because you were at a low point in your life, but you have a resolution that you were going to...
Yeah, I wish it was that. I wish it was that thoughtful. I think Vidal and I were kind of sparring over names, and I think Vidal named the company, but I'm not sure.
Well, it was well named.
It was well named. Yes.
Resolve Solutions.
But it wasn't that we thought, oh, we've been through the fire and we've resolved, and now we're at... No.
Well, maybe the Holy Spirit in you came up with the right name.
Yes.
I want you to talk a little bit about the study you did called Mapping Connections and how that's going to develop into what you think is a national brain strategy.
Yes. So Mapping Connections, I was co-chair of that research study. So it was the first ever national epidemiology study on neurological conditions. So we're looking across Canada related to the scope, impact, health services, and risk factors associated with 14 neurological conditions. So Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, Tourette's, MS, ALS, epilepsy. There are some commonalities across those conditions. And one of the commonalities, which is one of the reasons why I want to develop this national brain strategy, is depression and mental health issues, not just on the person living with the condition, but their caregiver.
That's like the common denominator?
Yes, there's a few things that are common, but that one in particular, it affects not just the person, but the caregiver and family.
Okay.
When I think about that and the millions of Canadians that are impacted, we really need to do better.
Okay. Okay. Margaret Trudeau, that gives you the other side of that coin, because a lot of people can empathize and understand your interest in this area because of your education and your background. But then you get into the science of it and it goes over old people's heads. But now you've got an advocate. And how important is it for someone like your boss's mother to be a mental health advocate? And how does that publicize it and put it into layman's terms and give it a real sort of scope? Like, here's a real person we're talking about who is a survivor.
Right.
And this is the reason why we want to have more survivors like her.
Right. So I think it's important on a couple of different fronts. Number one, it creates the awareness that there are people who have lived and are living with and are able to function with, whether you're talking about depression or any other mental health issue. Secondly, having that tone, having that person come forward and say, look, I have a mental health issue, it allows, because it's very isolating.
Okay.
It's very isolating when you're talking about depression and other issues. It's very isolating. And one of the things I think that we've done a little bit of a disservice to people with mental health issues is to say, well, if you had cancer, wouldn't you go to a doctor? And then we say, well, yes, we would. But with cancer or any other illness, there's a physical manifestation of that illness. There's a tumor. If you get a cut,
you can see it.
You could see it. You could either need a Band-Aid, or you need stitches,
Yep.
or you need surgery.
Right.
Right? With mental health, if you looked at me right now, could you tell me if I need a Band-Aid or stitches
Or what do you
or
need?
surgery?
Yeah,
You
exactly.
cannot say. So that conversation needs to change around mental health. It needs to be elevated. So people like Margaret Trudeau, others who have stood up and said, let's talk about mental illness. Let's remove the stigma from all parts of our society. That is so important, to get people who are isolated, who can't get out of bed, who cannot function, to say, I feel okay enough to go and get the help that I need. And I think that's very critically important.
Very good.
Yeah.